Hi, this is Dr. Evelyn, and this is a short overview introducing college-level research. As you can see, this is adapted from a presentation designed by Barbara Cheadle, a former reference librarian at BSU. When you're thinking about your research project, the first thing you'll probably want to think about is the types of sources that you need. Sources can function in lots of different ways when we write papers. You might need assessments or opinions from experts, bringing in that expert testimony, background or historical information to set the context for what you're writing about, comprehensive coverage of the topic because you want to make sure that you understand it really well, first-person accounts, so those witness accounts, people who have first-hand experience. Facts and analysis of current events might be important because the topic you're writing about might be consistently evolving. Scholarly articles will probably be needed for your college-level research, and these are published in peer-reviewed journals. Statistics or data can help show the scope of an issue, and step-by-step instructions can explain how something happens. Sources usually fall into three categories: popular, scholarly, and professional. Popular sources are written for general audiences, so news websites or newspapers, online videos, magazines, things like that. Scholarly sources are written for scholarly audiences, so think of like your professors and other academics who share their research in academic journals and books and lectures. Oftentimes, scholarly research is peer-reviewed, meaning that it's reviewed by academic peers before publication. Professional sources are usually for people in a specific industry. So there could be industry or trade materials, things like newsletters, reports, or magazines. When you're getting ready to evaluate your sources to decide if they're relevant and reliable, you're going to want to evaluate their currency, relevance, authority, accuracy, audience, and purpose. That spells CRAAAP with 3 A's, so doing the CRAAAP test is an easy way to remember how to evaluate your sources. Currency matters if you are trying to find the most up-to-date sources, if the thing that you're writing about has evolved over time and you need to be informed about what's going on now, or if you're writing about something that happened in the past and you're interested in how people wrote about it at that time. You might want to evaluate the currency. Relevance is important because you want to make sure that the sources that you find actually deal with the topic that you're writing about and not just something that's kind of related. Authority matters because you're leaning on the authority of the authors of your sources. Who wrote or made the source that you're referring to? Why do you trust them? In turn, using authorities will lend your own work authority. Accuracy matters because you want to make sure that the information that you're sharing is correct. Even if you're not an expert on your topic yet, you can determine the accuracy by comparing across different sources to see if the information is consistent. Sometimes you'll find an outlier. In that case, refer to the other parts of the CRAAAP test. Is this brand new information? Has somebody done an experiment in a different way that came up with different results? That way you can think about the accuracy. The audience for a source matters too. For example, a scholarly source that's written for other scholars might use advanced language that you don't have access to yet, and you might need to learn some key terms in order to understand it. Or a source that's written for a popular audience might give a brief overview of something, but not get too much into detail. The purpose also matters. Ask yourself why the thing that you're reviewing was made. Is it a documentary meant to inform people? Is it a scholarly source meant to share research? Is it advertising material that's meant to convince you to buy a product? Think about purpose. As you start looking for those credible sources that meet the CRAAAP test, you're going to be looking in a couple places. Databases are large collections of information, and they're searchable. We have access to lots of databases through our Thurgood Marshall Library at BSU. OneSearch is a tool for searching multiple databases at the same time, so you don't have to go database by database. As you get underway with your research, come up with a research question. Identify the key words in that research question, and then brainstorm some synonyms just in case those key terms don't turn up the results that you were looking for. It's possible that the word that you use to describe something might be a different term in the field that you're searching. One of the reasons to do this is because you want to make sure that your search is efficient. We don't want you wasting time in your research. Getting your thoughts organized as you start, thinking about synonyms that help you expand your understanding of the topic, being less frustrated with finding sources, these are all important in your research process. Here's an example research question. What is the connection between discrimination and an individual's race and gender? What would you say are the key words in this question? If you said discrimination, race, and gender, you would be totally on point. We don't need the rest of the question. Now, you're going to want to think of synonyms, just in case the authors of the sources that would be useful for you used other terms. Here are some examples. Discrimination, you could also use the terms prejudice or inequality. For race, minorities, and ethnicity. For gender, maybe you're looking for sources that would come up with the search terms sexism, transgender, female, or male. As you start looking into databases, you'll find that they have a few features in common. Search boxes, filters, and then the tools that you use to interact with sources. A basic search just gives you a chance to put in your key terms in one search field. An advanced search allows you to put in multiple terms across multiple fields and choose different options. The tools that you might use when you find sources include printing and downloading, citation tools, being able to email sources to yourself, and the filters that you might use will help you narrow things down according to the CRAAAP test. So you might be finding sources that have a more recent publication date, or you might be looking for sources that are scholarly and have that scholarly authority. There are a couple of other things to think about when you're putting in your search terms. If you put quotation marks around phrases, you're more likely to find the instances of those phrases occurring in sources in the databases. If you put in the words black, and you put in the word lives, and you put in the word matter, you'll find all the sources that have the word black, or the word lives, or the word matter in them. But if you put Black Lives Matter in quotation marks together, then you'll find sources about Black Lives Matter movement. Also, you might want to think about putting synonyms connected by an or on a line together with parentheses around them. So here's an example. Diet or nutrition or food will help you find all the sources that have any of those three terms in them if you're not sure what language your sources would be using. Here are some step-by-step instructions for using OneSearch. You can also watch the BSU How to Use OneSearch video. So let's practice evaluating some sources using the CRAAAP test. First of all, this is a scholarly source that I found using OneSearch through the BSU library website. We can learn a lot just looking at this first page of the PDF. As we scroll down, we can look at the title, Determinants of Adoption of Sustainable Production Practices Among Smallholder Coffee Producers in Nicaragua. Obviously, this is not for a general audience. It's not a popular source. We've got our authors' names here. Information about when this article was accepted and when it was published. And we have an abstract. Scholarly sources often have abstracts at the beginning. It's just a brief description of what's in the article. Reading an abstract can save you a lot of time because you can determine whether or not it's actually relevant for what you're researching. As we come down here, we've got information about our authors. We can see that they come from Michigan State University. That helps us determine their authority. In addition, we've got keywords. And we can see that this scholarly source is really well organized using subheadings, and we can see our in-text citations here that point us toward other potential sources. On the right, you'll see those tools that I mentioned, the ability to print, email, get a citation, etc. So we can judge that this scholarly source is going to be pretty reliable. Let's take a look at another one. This is the website of the National Coffee Association. It's exactly what it sounds like, a professional organization for people who work in the coffee industry. We can see that they've got a page for their members. We've got some general information about coffee. Industry resources, so this tells us that this is an industry or professional source. And as we come down, we can see that this is their guide to sustainable coffee for people who are working in the coffee supply chain. So understand that the information that's provided here is not going to be scholarly, it's going to be professional. Here's another example. Here's a TED Talk from Philip Perry. Generally, TED Talks are pretty reliable sources. Usually they help us understand a topic. We can learn a little bit more about Philip Perry if we go down to the description. Philip Perry of Coyotes Cafe and Roastery has been building a respectful relationship with coffee producers in Mexico to ensure their community is fairly compensated and honored for their work. If we wanted to spend some more time looking Perry up, we could learn a little bit more about him and judge his authority. But there's no reason that you can't use online videos as long as they're actually reliable and relevant to your research. Here's another one. This is a website from Conservation International. Conservation International is a nonprofit organization. You can't see this, but their address is conservation.org. This is a little website that tells us about what it really means when we're talking about sustainable coffee. Instead of providing us with a long article, they provided us with links so that we can move through and learn more as we want to. We also understand who this author is. They tell us here that Olivia de Smet is a staff writer for the organization. And they provide us with more sources that we can read. So this would be a pretty trustworthy source. Just need to understand that they're coming from a nonprofit perspective where they're trying to protect the environment. They're conservationists. And here's one more source. What do you notice about this one? That's right, McDonald's, right? So this is McDonald's page about their coffee. And they want us to understand that they are sustainably sourcing their coffee. They're telling us why that matters and what their approach is. There's some cute little graphics. Just remember that any information McDonald's provides you is meant to make you feel good about buying their product. So it might not tell you as much as a scholarly source or an industry source might. I hope this helps. Happy researching!